thank you to everybody involved, Mr. Merrill, Ms. Doyle. It's great to see that we have, 5 candidates that really care about the town of Southbridge running. It's not like that every year, and it's good to see that this year. Just a little bit about myself. I've grown up here for most of my whole life. I attended school here. My family on the Montigny side ran Vets Cab. It's been gone for quite a while now, and a few of us all did some time working at the school system. I was the cable access department head here for 4 years and the station manager of Southbridge Community Television. We built a great team. We ended up saving a lot of money, and it's always great to do an event here because I get to see everybody keeps growing and growing into such an amazing department here. Also was the teacher at Southbridge Middle High School. I mentioned from 2012 to 2016 I taught high school video production. Kind of went hand in hand with the media that we were doing here and at the school. Had the after school program there too. Was a class advisor of the class of 2016. And I did a year in 2019 teaching science, grade 6 science, certified to teach science in Massachusetts. But I own a video company in Southbridge, 6M Studios. I'd film the same things that I used to do here. I bought all my own equipment and started my own business and convert VCR tapes to DVD. That's a really popular thing. Had the opportunity to expand that business down to Puerto Rico for a couple years, and those experiences have just made me fluent in Spanish and really understand the culture and community around in New England. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm honored to be able to ask you, please vote for me on June 14th at the Community Center, Mike Montigny. Thank you very much.
And you might notice Mike's got a couple of signs around town. How would you select a trash option that would best benefit the residents of Southbridge? Mike Montigny, about the trash.
Everybody's mostly said, the right thing here. The council has done a great job providing information on the Curbside Advisory Committee. There's so many different options, and yes, the easy way would be able to somehow just keep things the way they are, but that does cost a lot of money. So you've definitely got to look at next year trying to find the best way to free up some money to help the cause for picking the best thing for trash for the taxpayers' wallets. The manager said that he was going to have a level service budget this year, and it ended up having quite a few different positions in different departments. So I don't expect anybody to ask for anything next year, and there's got to be some way that we can all work together, the council and the department heads, to find some way to free up enough money to be able to provide the best solution for trash for our residents and taxpayers.
What do you think is the top issue that needs to be addressed as soon as possible, and how would you suggest we handle that number one issue?
Thank you. The top issue is certainly the schools. There are a lot of issues in town that we need to take a look at, but it all starts with the schools. If you don't have a good school system, no families are going to want to move here. If families don't want to move here, businesses aren't going to want to come either. So it has to get fixed. But, I've had the privilege in my lifetime, especially with the tornado here in Southbridge, but in recent years experiencing a few different natural disasters. And what I remember from the tornado is that it really brought the town together. And the pandemic is certainly labeled a natural disaster. And I will say that the receiver has handled the COVID very well. And it kind of brought everybody back down to earth on the same playing field. And there have been some good foundations built, good lines of communication with the receiver and the council that weren't always there in the past. So the receiver, the state, the commissioner of DESE, they all have to help us get the schools back into our control as quickly as possible, and everything else will fall in line after that.
Thanks, Mike. Basically, it's how do you promote local industry in the town of Southbridge? Mike, 1 minute.
Well, George said it right there. There's the boards and the inspectors in this town need to be a little more pro-business. People need to have feel like that the inspectors are working with them rather than, giving them a hard time. We want businesses to come here. But, before I made the transition from the public to the private sector, I spoke at the dais about future plans for cable access to work with the Economic Development Committee. Cable access can afford to make a purchase for some drones, and I know that the town of Southbridge has some land and always comes in and out of different properties. I've always had a dream for cable access to work hand in hand to try to help sell these properties and get businesses to come here, because not only would it bring a business to Southbridge, but it would also make money for the town if they used town property that they were trying to sell. So there's lots of different ways to answer that question, but we have a lot of resources in different departments that can start to work together to make it easier for everybody and businesses.
Did you catch that "I have a dream" speech, Mike, there?
Yeah.
I got that, and I thought you were really going to get up and start, hallelujah and all that. Congratulations.
I can.
That was a good answer, though. 1 minute goes by so fast. Mike Montigny, you could be answering this question first. Let me give you a little background first. History is so important, and we learn from the past. Southbridge has a number of historic buildings that have been lost due to fire or have been torn down. Also, our cemeteries have been prone to vandalism. Do you have any ideas for protecting these architectural values and preserve the town's historical buildings and landmarks?
Well, there's a bunch of different committees that all take part, some of the ones that Ms. Doyle was talking about, in preserving all different types of things in the town. As far as cemeteries and landmarks, I know that Councilor Adams has done a great job with the memorials and trying to protect those. I'm sure that there are grants. There are people out there that work for the town that know a lot more than me about how to protect those things. And that's where, as a counselor, you have to make sure that you have the right communication with the town manager, who has the communication with the department heads, to be able to give us the information of all the different types of things that we can do on top of the things I've already mentioned to preserve these things. It is sad about the cemeteries. A friend of mine just went recently for Memorial Day and was sending me videos of how terrible some of them looked in certain places. And it's a great way to start a volunteer community effort. I think actually the restoration of gravestones is actually a pretty cool thing to see, and it's very rewarding, because Southbridge does have a lot of history, and we definitely need to protect that the best we can.
Mike Montigny, 1 minute about the roads in Southbridge.
Thanks. Yeah, you got to continue to execute the road study, which I've seen the study for this year, and it's great what they plan to do. But, like Councilor Marchetti said, it's not just the roads, it's the sidewalks too. And honestly, we're at a disadvantage to having to deal with a receivership and trash pickup, because the roads should be our biggest issue, and we have all these other messes to clean up first. But the roads are going to be consistently worked on. I do feel this way for the future, because the DPW director just left, and we're going to be hiring new positions as well there, and we have to make sure that we hire people that are road oriented and know what they're doing with the roads. There needs to be more oversight when we have big projects like redoing all of Main Street. Sidewalks, babies falling, you're not going to have families move here for that. You go to look at a home on Denison Hill, and you can't even make it past the church without your car getting all messed up. So it's another reason with the receivership to keep families out of here. We got to fix the roads.
And we'll move on to you, Mike. Mike Montigny, 1 minute about the greatest strength of Southbridge in your mind.
Southbridge's greatest strength is definitely its people and its community. One thing that I always took pride in was being a teacher in this town. I didn't want to teach for anybody else except people from Southbridge, and our youth, just like myself and others that have grown up here, they're some of the best people. They have to go through a suburban town with an urban population, and you learn so much and you experience so much. And actually, when I did work at Northbridge Public Schools, it was for Southbridge born and raised Amy McKinstry as the superintendent. So I really, the community here is what is going to make Southbridge come into this reinventing that we're trying to do for Southbridge. It's never going to be as great as it was, the same way it was in the 70s that people always talk about, but in the future here, it's going to be our community and the people here. It's some of the best people I've ever met, and totally the people in the community.
Climate and weather changes are always in the news, and the state of Massachusetts has created a Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, MVP for short. Towns can apply for grants from the state to address flooding or other climate change issues. Here's your question. Do you know anything about this program? And would you think it's a good idea to apply for one of these grants to address weather-related issues in the town of Southbridge?
Yeah, so flooding has, of course, taken a toll on Southbridge over the years, the last 50, 70 years. So anything that you can do to provide help for that, because still, when the rain gets tough, it'll still flood down in Everett Street and other places. But, here, there's not too many natural disasters. We did have the tornado. I wouldn't advise throwing grant money into a tornado, but I'm sure, there could be other things that could help that situation. Cable Access used to have a emergency alert system that was hooked up to the fire station. Maybe even grants for this could help pay for that. But grants all around are a good thing. Whenever you can have the state work hand in hand to do something better for your community, you're going to get more people that want to live here and be a part of the already great community that we have now.
The next question has something to do with the schools, and this would be for Mike Montigny. Here's a question, Mike. What's the working relationship like between the town council and the school committee? And how does this Southbridge regain full control of the schools from the state? What kind of timeline? What are we waiting for? It's been, you said, 6 years. When does that happen?
The town council and the school committee, I think the relationship gets better and better every year. Chairman Murch is always available to speak to there. But the thing is that the school committee doesn't have any power. It's all in the power of the state right now in the receivership, and that is exactly the problem. But the town council, if you're talking about relationships, you talk about the one with the receiver and the state. And like I said before earlier today, the pandemic kind of brought everybody together, and everybody has done a really good job on the town council of forming good relationships with the receiver and with the state. The governor is probably going to change this year in Massachusetts, and maybe that can be somewhere where we'll be able to start and look for some help in getting the state to leave quicker. But with help, we all need to work together to get this good, because you can't just throw the state out. It's not what's best for our students. We have to have some sort of a dismount plan, a strategy, and it has to be done sooner than later. I do not want to see the state running the school system at the end of my term. At the end of these 3 years, the state needs to be gone, and we need to do everything we can to keep that line of communication open. We need to keep building those relationships and move forward with as many people as we can get on board. The commissioner, the governor, the receiver, and of course the town council. And the school committee will be right there the whole time. They've got to get their power back to make the right decisions for our kids, the budget, the policy. And I fully see that happening too. I completely believe that the state will hand it back over sooner than later.
And again, I think you said it 6 years. I said I thought it was 4, and
Time
6
flies.
years. It
Yep.
has gone. It's gone by fast, but it's gone by so slow too.
Exactly.
If you think it on both sides of that, Mike Montigny, the same question about the water and sewer rates as far as the town council is concerned.
Yeah, the sewer plant definitely has constant repairs, and that's something that's going to be hard to get away from when it needs to be constantly repaired. But many moons ago, there was a strong town council that had the water company even in great deals with Charlton, where we're making a lot of money, and then other councils kind of gave that away. But now what we can do, you could certainly have some more oversight. Taking it back to a public business is one way to do it. It was running well at one point, but you got to find a way to curb spending as much as possible, especially in a year where we're supposed to have a level service budget and we have many new positions. So next year, it should be very easy for everybody to try to keep rates down, pay for trash, not have to do that last resort 2.5 override to pay for anything, and start to stabilize and fix the high rates.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Montigny, could you answer that question regarding public safety? How do you think Southbridge ranks overall?
Yeah, you got to look at public safety too, as DPW being a part of that, and the roads and the sidewalks, they need to be safe too. So we always got to keep that in the back of our mind as we go through these times where we rebuild that. But the police and fire are excellent in this town, in my opinion. That's because of the community and the fact that they're so homegrown. I mean, we have an excellent chief in Chief Woodson who grew up here, and Deputy Chief Jose Dingy has created a great program, Cops and Kids, back many years ago, and there's a lot of data that backs up that program has helped the youth in our community, and I feel very safe here. am always, listening to the reports that the police put out on Facebook and everything, and people that are getting in trouble here, it's really always isolated incidents. There's no random crime going on, and I think that is a tribute to all of the great men and women that work for the police and the fire collectively. I can't say enough good about our police department.
Is there a question that you think I should have asked you tonight that I didn't? Mike Montigny.
Well, I think that, last year, I believe it was last year, there was a question on the ballot about putting in a new fire station, and I think that the people of this town want to know more about how that's going. And, we're supposed to, as counselors, serve the people and listen to what they're saying about things. And we need to make sure, because that came in at a specific price, a high price, and we need to make sure that we continue to keep that price for our fire station level. And that goes right hand in hand with Councilor Marchetti talking about taxes. We need to make sure that taxes are controlled and stable, and we're paying for things that we need, not things that we necessarily just want that are nice. So we got to make sure that this fire station comes in under budget. And I still think, it's the last question that you ask the voters, the community. And if you're asking me, with no disrespect, I think it would have been nice to hear what everyone had to say about the fire station project and how that's been going. Thanks so much to everybody involved, and especially, like you said, the people watching and the people that are going to go out and vote on June 14th. I mean, you have to look at all of the very pressing issues that we have right now with the high water, sewer, tax rates, the roads, the trash contract breathing down our necks right now, and of course the school system. What we need to do is come together as one town, one community, and we need unity. To move forward, we're going to need to have a strong council with strong leadership. And I know that if elected, I can help provide that. You need to look, when you go to the polls, at experience, and you need to reach down and remember why you have that same passion that we all do to be a Southbridge resident. So if you lived here your whole life, remember your pioneer pride from your days at Southbridge High School, and please cast a vote for Mike Montigny on June 14th at the Southbridge Community Center on 153 Chestnut Street. Thanks.
And that'll do it.